Hi everybody. So today's video I want to give you an update of what I'm doing at the moment for One Book July and hopefully the rest of the year actually. So what I'm going to start with is what I was doing in my last video. Now the last video I filmed, at one point in that video I was talking about trying to use the bullet journal method. Now if you haven't heard of it before, One Book July is kind of like halfway through the year, the planner community sort of has a sort of reassessment of what you're doing and whether things can be changed. It's a good time halfway through the year to sort of think about what's been working for you for the first 6 months and whether you need to change that for the second 6 months. So the people who started the original One Book July, I'll put links below. Originally it was one book, one pen. Try and get all your planners into one book with one pen. And then since then it's sort of evolved, and every year there's a different theme and there's no rules, you can do what you want. And ironically, this year the theme is actually this book here. And I actually, before I knew that, in June, I got the book and I read it and I was trying to sort of use it in my traveller's notebook. And I'm not doing it anymore. So I'm not doing this for One Book July. So what I want to do is I want to show you what I was doing and then my thought process of sort of why that didn't work for me and what I'm doing now. So I have my traveller's notebook and I made this, what do you call it, a wallet insert for it, because I felt like I needed something in there. So I made that. I was sort of really invested in this, and I still am. I'm going to use it because in here I have two inserts. I've got this one here, which is, it was basically my do what I want in it. Really, really freeing to have a space where you can do what you want. You can do journaling, you can stick pictures in, you can scribble on the page, you can make notes, you can do brainstorming, you can just use it for whatever. This is really, I love this. So this is staying. And then I also had an insert which I was experimenting with doing the bullet journal method. So what I'll do is I'll show you this bit first and how I was doing that. So if you saw my other video, which I can also link below, how I was trying to sort of make it work for me, I started off by writing down all my to-do lists, all the things sort of knocking around in my head, and it came to like 80 something, and I was like, oh my gosh, overwhelmed. So I thought I'd categorize them, and I categorized them into these categories, and that really helps, categorizing things. And then I did a monthly overview. I mean, there's previous pages you can see in the other video, but the last month I did a monthly overview. Tried to keep things really simple. I was writing on here in pencil like things I want to do on that day, but I rubbed them out because it just wasn't working. And then along the top I've got what I was calling my timetable, because I found that I had all these areas of my life, those categories, that I was trying to do all of them. And I can't do all of them at once. You know, I can't do this and that and that and that, all those different sort of roles that I have all in one day, because it does my head in. So I was trying to give myself a timetable. So on Mondays I do this, on Tuesdays I do that, on Wednesdays I do this, so that I had a sort of a framework to work into. And that's a really good idea. I think I'll keep doing that. And I kind of recommend that if you're self-employed, plus a mum, plus this, plus that. If you have, like, obviously control over your own time, it's actually a really good thing to do, is to sort of schedule things. I kind of fell off the wagon a bit recently, but I'm going to get back onto that when I can. And then I'll show you this is sort of like the last page I did. So as you can see, I was doing like a to-do list every day and crossing them off when I did them, cancelling them as a cross. If I had to move them, I'd do like a little arrow. So sort of like my own version of bullet journaling. And it works, you know, up to a point. I did this week. That was the second week in June, and third week in June it just sort of fell off. And it's really hard for me to explain why it wasn't working. Partly I think it's because, I don't know, I feel like you write these things that you're going to do that day, but then what if you don't do them, and then you have to rewrite them, and I don't know, I just feel like it was sort of too basic a system, and that's not a criticism, it's just how I feel, you know, about it. It just wasn't working for me somehow, because as you can see, I didn't do it. So around that time I was still working in my sort of creative whatever I want to do sort of journal. And I'll just show you a little bit of it. I was doing like a bit of sticking things in when we went out for a fun day. I was doing like monthly spreads if I felt like it, just because why not, because it's fun. Sticking in labels of things that I found because I like the picture, notes about books I'd read, just random stuff really, and really enjoying doing this. There's lots of pages in between. And then I was on YouTube and I saw some videos by Brandy Michelle Plans, who you must check out if you haven't already. And she has some really good videos on this other method that's quite well known called the Getting Things Done method. So I watched her videos and I was like, oh, hang on, oh, that might work. So I was writing notes about it because a lot of what she was saying was kind of similar to what I was doing already. But I felt like I needed to read the book because there might be things that I didn't know that I hadn't done yet. So I ordered the book at this point, and I had to wait a while for it to come, obviously, from America. But so I had her notes, like notes from her videos about what I was going to do, and I was like, oh, I'm quite excited about it. And then, obviously, at the end of June, One Book July is coming, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so what do I want to do for One Book July? What's best for me to do? And I wasn't, I was checking to see what the theme was going to be for this year, but at this point, it still wasn't decided. So I was just thinking, okay, what's best for me? I'd fallen out with my Hobonichi Weeks, which is now on the shelf, and I no longer use it, which is a bit of a shock for me, but it wasn't working. Like, I was using the monthly calendars, and then obviously on the weekly pages you have the side which you can write your to-do lists, but again, there's something about to-do lists, anyway, I'll get onto that. So my weeks was gone, and I felt like I don't know, I obviously need to replace that one. And I started thinking about like what in my planner life, my notebook journal life, is sort of overwhelming me, because I find that the theme for One Book July, the original theme, try and get all your various things and try and squish them into one, is still the best sort of thing to focus on, because I think that's, that's the key thing for me. So I was thinking about how when I go outside or I go out on errands or shopping or to go and do something or other, I grab my purse and my wallet and my handbag and all that stuff and my car keys, and then I'm like, oh, okay, which notebooks am I taking? And I grab the bag and I'm like throwing in like 3 different planners. Oh, but I might want to journal. Oh, but I might need this information. Oh, but and then I'd end up with like a bag of stuff thrown in the car, and then I wouldn't necessarily use them all. And this was happening every time I went anywhere, and I thought, this is kind of ridiculous. I also have some travel coming up. I want to go back and see my family in England, and obviously I don't want to take 4 or 5 planners with me, because anybody who's a planner addict will know that you can't just put them in the hold. You can't put them in your suitcase and risk them losing it. No, you can't. So you've got to have them in your hand luggage. So therefore you've got to carry them. And I'm like, do I want to lug 5 books through, several airports? And like, oh my God, no. So what I really need to do is sit down and think, what is the absolute basic necessary information I need to take out with me every day? So I sat down and I sort of wrote out ideas for an everyday carry project. So my One Book July is one everyday carry, basically. One thing that I have with me to take. I mean, probably a lot of people are already doing that, but I wasn't. So I had a little brainstorm. And then a bit later on, I started thinking about the difference between planning, and recording. Because I still want to do this kind of thing. I still want to do random journaling when I feel like it, random brainstorming, random scribbling on a page, random drawing. So I'm still going to have this. And I'm still going to have an evening Hobonichi to write what I did that day or whatever. Right, so those kind of come under the journaling, reflecting, memory keeping sort of arena. So I made a list on this side of everything I want to do outside of my everyday carry. So if my everyday carry is just for planning, I only need to sort of focus on these things, which was holidays, trips, things on the calendar, birthdays, Christmas planning, projects that I'm working on, necessary tasks, tax payment deadlines, things like that, work schedules and things to do with work, like sales and things. And then I added in finances from recording, because although you record finances, like I record how much I spend every month, that also needs to come into planning in terms of budgeting. So I was like, okay, get all this in one book. That's my goal. So by this point, the book arrived. So I sat down to read it. And here it is. So this is, if anybody's read this, I don't know if you'll agree with me, it's a really good, dense book. Like, there's a lot in there. And I would say he's quite a wordy writer. So I've not to say that I didn't really understand what he was saying. It's not that. It's just that he uses a lot of words, I find, to say one thing. And so it was kind of quite hard going for me to read it late at night in the evenings. So what I did, which is what I normally do with books anyway, is I've started making notes I got a clipboard with A4 printer paper, and I just wrote down as I went bits that stuck out to me. Because I felt like I needed sort of like a summarised version of this, because I can't read this book and be like, oh cool, okay, and then go and do it, because I'd be like, well, I can't remember it now, I can't remember what he was saying, what's he going on about, what am I doing? So I basically condensed it by myself, like what I think I needed to take from it. So these are my notes, and I wrote them out onto, I think it's 6 sides, and then I was like, okay, cool, I still don't understand, like, it's not that there's a complicated system as such. It's just that I really find planning and managing my to-do lists and managing my things to do really hard, like super hard. Like trying to think about that for me is really, really difficult. I don't know why. I'm so used to just sort of going and doing what I'm doing and not really planning things. So therefore all this talk about how to plan things and how to think really carefully about what your next action is, and I'm like, I have no idea what my next action is. It's really difficult. I need him here basically with me to sort my brain out. But anyway, he's not. So I sat down at my computer and I thought, okay, I've got these handwritten notes, but I still can't make head or tail of them. So I sort of wrote out everything on the computer, because on the computer you can sort of move things around and work out where things go, because there is a lot of repeating, not like repeating information, but he'll introduce something and then in the next chapter he'll introduce in more detail, and then the next one he'll do it in more detail, but I need to do it all together. So I kind of wrote out his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step thing. So I've got that now to work from. So why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this because if you read this book, if you get this book and you read it, and you find the same as me, that it's a bit, sort of makes your head spin, this is what I did. So that's quite useful to do, I think, is to make notes and sort of make them how you can understand, basically. So I read the book, I tried to digest it, got a bit confused, and now I can show you what I did, what I'm doing, and what is my One Book July. Okay, so just grabbing my chair because I need to sit down. So here we go. How should I do this? I think what I will do, there's 2 things I want to show. I want to show one, how I'm sort of doing One Book July in terms of having a 1 everyday carry, and then 2, I want to show how I'm trying to do the getting things done method. So I think if I sort of do this in 2 parts, that will probably help. So firstly, I'll just show you just roughly what I've got in here in terms of things that I feel that I need to have with me and why I chose this planner in particular. I have never really properly tried to use rings before. I have planner, like a ring bound planner for Christmas, or I have, certain themed ones, but I've never sort of used it as my central sort of, what do you call it, like the mastermind, the centre of what I'm doing. Never tried it, and I thought, well, this is a good opportunity because it's flexible, can take things in and out, and because TNs, I find that they're lovely for doing journaling and travelling and sort of that kind of thing, but I think this is probably better in terms of the flexibility, especially as I'm still trying to work out what I need. So what do I decide I need in my everyday carry, my one book everyday carry? I have pockets at the front. This is, by the way, this is a Filofax Calipso compact, so it's slim. So my first thought was, okay, I'd quite like to have something slim because I'm going to be carrying it every day. I don't want to be carrying like a massive big chunk of lunk around. So I found this on secondhand, really good deal. I was like shocked when I got it, and I'm like, but it's practically brand new. So thank you, random person. But yeah, it's got like 5 pockets in the front. I did 2 cards for emergency information, just very basic information like names, blood types, and contact people. 1 in English and 1 in Japanese, for obvious reasons if anything happened. The pink card here is my address. I do know my address off by heart, like how to say it and how to write it in English, but in Japanese, obviously I've got to write it all in Japanese, is a bit tricky, so I always carry a card with me with my address on, so that when I go like to the bank or whatever and I have to write my address, or somewhere random I have to write my address, I can take this out and copy it. Then on here I've got, it's just like a little laminated note card, but I stuck some post-it notes on just in case I need a sort of temporary place to scribble things down. More on that later. And then these little Midori, I can never remember the English name, post-it, like sticky notes, that's it. Because they're cute and they go in here, and I'm using them for something which I will explain later. Pen is a Pilot Juice Up 0.3, so it's a gel pen. I would honestly prefer to have a very fine ballpoint pen, but this has got a slim barrel, and I wanted a really skinny pen to go in here because when you close it, obviously it might crunch against the tabs. So that's in there for when I'm out and about, but honestly when I'm home I just normally grab a ballpoint, usually my Hobonichi pen. In here I just have, this is like my reference sheet for birthdays. So everybody's birthday is on there, their date of their birthday, if they're children I put their age on. And then every year I'll update it with obviously the new ages and pop that in there. And it's just to keep track of which presents or cars I've bought and who I sent them to and blah. So that just stays in there. I made the tabs, are they called tabs? Like the dividers? Fairly, I kept them sort of neutral and then neutral colours. I might change what's on there, but this was just me sort of experimenting, obviously. I stuck a clear pocket on the front here so that I could just put a picture of my son in, and I can change it out as he gets older. Put a new one in if I want to. So my first section, when I'm out and about, or every day I need, is like calendars. And I've written calendars and logs, but at the moment it's mostly just calendars. So I have a yearly overview, which to be honest I don't really use that much, but it's just for like a couple of things, nothing major. I did make these sort of like forward planning boxes, but I haven't used them, so I might take them out. And then I have my monthly calendars. Now, my monthly calendars at the moment are bought ones from a shop. One of the brilliant things about Japan is that they do actually have quite a wide range of inserts here. Like in England you have, well I suppose you do, you have, I don't know about America, sorry, but in England you have like Filofax inserts, which I'm sorry, but I really don't like the paper. You can probably get them from Paper Chase maybe, and WH Smith I think. But here there are a few different brands other than Filofax, more popular. So there's actually quite a variety of inserts. You can get some really interesting ones. So I just bought one just to try out for the rest of the year. And on here, and this ties in with what David Allen says, actually, is that you only put things that are very date specific, that are not going to change or very unlikely to change. So that when you look at your calendar, you can have confidence in it that you're just checking it for reference, you're checking it for things that are definitely happening. So obviously birthdays are not going to change, so they go on there. Rubbish days I put on because that's something somebody else decides, not me, I can't change it. National holidays are going on here. Things at my son's nursery go on here. And that's basically it. Unless I have a very, very strict deadline, like my library books are due back, or, credit card payment dates. Just things that are not going to change. You're not supposed to put on here, and this does make a lot of sense, things like things that you plan to do, like projects that you might start on that day or whatever. So on the days, this is literally just permanent fixed stuff, and I don't decorate it or anything. It's just so that I can look at it and go, okay, tomorrow's this, check the week or whatever. What I did do down here, which I don't know if I need to do, but I have done it, and we'll see how it goes, is things I absolutely have to do for that month. Specific tasks. Not ideally, but actually literally have to do, like paying taxes or whatever. And then on this side, which I'll talk about later, I've written down themes. So they're not particularly strict, but if I want to get all my stuff done that I want to get done by the end of the year, that's got to be my focus for that month. Let's see if it works. So there's July, and I've got a couple of projects that I want to work on for the rest of July. So yeah, same again, August, exactly just fixed things, 2 extremely important I have to do by deadlines, and then some themed projects. On this page, I have these notes because that's an event that's happening that I need these notes for that event, and that event is on that day. So, and there's not enough notes for it to warrant like a whole page in like a notes section. So that's on there, and then when I get to the month, I can just take that off and get rid of it. So those are my months, and then this is my son, my son's little drawing. In Japan, they have this children's. Sorry if anybody's a bit squeamish, but they have this children's program, and basically there's a little character, and he's a detective, but he has a bum for a face. Like, don't even ask. Like, oh my god. So, but anyway, he loves it, and it was on. Look, here he is. That's a bum face. Kids love it, and I'm sure kids everywhere around the world would love it, but it's here. Anyway, he drew me a picture of him, and I thought it was so cute with his little like spyglass. So that's gone in there. I made that. Oh, sorry, I moved the camera. Are we back in? I laminated it, and I thought I'm going to use it as a little tab. So that's now my accounts tab. So really, this tab should say calendar and accounts, but never mind. Accounts. I just like any notes about finances, monthly, what I'm spending, credit card bill tracking, so that I know what's going to come up on our credit card bill. That's that. Notes and paper. Oh, that's just in there because I made it like a dashboard and I liked it. It's made from like vintage book paper. This is just plain paper in here. Now I was thinking, well, I don't really need that very often, so maybe I should put that at the back, but actually for writing down notes, scribbling things down, it's easier if it's in the middle in terms of, you know, lying flat, so I'll probably keep that there. Now, this is sort of, this shopping list section is kind of something he mentions in his book, in the Getting Things Done book, but I was doing this already, and I picked this up from somewhere, I can't remember where. And this was initially in my wallet, but I've taken out my wallet and I put it in here. These are location-specific shopping lists. It's not stuff that I necessarily have to get, because if it's something I have to get by a certain date, that's going to go somewhere else. This is just like, if I'm there and I see it, maybe I should pick that up. So I have it done by shop, so 100 yen shopping, like an interior or DIY shop, stationery wish list, which is impressively small. Technology stuff, clothing, toiletries, sewing and craft shop, and then if I think of another category, I can add it in. So this is something I definitely need in my everyday carry because it goes up with me when I'm out. Now, the next section is projects, which I'm going to skip until the end because that'll be more talking about the Getting Things Done method. So we'll skip to the next one, which is travel. And I don't know if this really needs a section of its own, but a lot of stuff going on in my life does involve travel, not necessarily mine. Like my husband obviously visiting, family visiting, us going to visit family. There's a lot of like flying back and forth. So it's got its own section for now. We'll see how it goes. This is just luggage notes for the 2 local airlines, like what their weight and dimension restrictions are for luggage, because I need to buy a new suitcase at some point, I think, because I don't have a hand carry one. And then I started tracking flights, like how much it cost if we booked flights back to the UK, and then I've called it Flight Watch because I'm going to check every few weeks or so and sort of get an idea of how much flights cost. I have a page dedicated to my husband. Hello, if you're watching, darling. Things like if there's stuff I need to do before he comes, like if I want to get a certain room tidied or something sorted in my shop before he comes so that I can relax when he's here, that would go there. requests like stuff I want him to bring me from Mexico, or us for the family. And then his task list of things to do, or things that we should do together. Like, because, you know, obviously he's Japanese, he's better at Japanese than I am, so there's a few like practical things. So this is your page if you're watching. And then I have a page for when my mum and her husband visit, like things we can do, places to take them, food I can feed them. So that again is travel related. And this is randomly in here, I probably don't need it, but this is like just notes about how to do, like set up a travel notebook. I was watching Seaweed Kisses. She was talking about her setting up a travel notebook using one of the ring-bound Midori books, and I bought some recently. And I really loved how she had these ideas for customising it, and it just didn't occur to me to do it. So I'm really excited about that. So I made some notes watching her video. I can link that one down below. So again, travel related. And then I wrote down, I've got to renew my son's passport, all the details about that. It's travel. And then I made these like sort of fold out inserts, just like a year overview for like travel related things, like blue is when my husband visits, orange is when my family are visiting. I don't know if I need it, but I kind of like to see it because it kind of feels nice that I'm going to have company on those days. I don't know. Anyway, I might use it next year, I'm not sure. I did print one out, look, in the hope that I could put on like a flight back to the UK. I can mark that on. We'll see. And then at the back is reference, which I can't show you too much of it, but basically I have a Mildliner, what's it called? Test page? Pen test page? Can't remember what it's called. Because I like to use Mildliners and I can remember what colour they really look like. Then, like, collected in here, which I'm not going to show you, is like all the opening hours of our local places that we go, like supermarkets and libraries and doctor surgeries, so that if I'm out, I mean, you can check this stuff on your phone, but I have to do it in Japanese, and it's a bit of a faff trying to Google things when you're in a rush. So I actually write out all of like the places and when they open, so that I can just quickly look when I'm out as an everyday carry thing, like if things are open or not. And then the next page is my sort of list of emergency supplies. Obviously in Japan we get a lot of earthquakes and things like that, so you have to have emergency supplies ready. And I have, so far I've written down everything I've got in the car, like, you know, baby wipes and plasters and portable toilets, just in case we get stuck somewhere and you know, the roads aren't working. And then at the bottom here and here I'll write down the stuff that I have at home, because I need to sort of go through it at some point. And the good thing about this, having it as reference in here, is firstly it's reassuring, and you can sort of look through it and compare it to other people's lists, and oh, maybe I need to get one of those. But also you can write expiry dates, so if there's food that expires or medicine that expires, you can see here without having to rummage through the box. So when I finish that, that will be really useful to have with me. And then at the end I have like my son's nursery schedule and like an illness reference sheet they give us, which I have to go through and translate, like, you know, what illnesses there are and how long they should stay off for. And at the back I actually put in my notes copied from the book for getting things done, because I think the only way I'm going to get it in my head is obviously trying to practice it more and reading this over and over. And I laminated them because I messed up when I was cutting them out, I messed it up and I didn't have space on this side, so I laminated them so that I had space to punch holes, so I did that. And then that's just like, that's in the back, I don't need it, I could probably take that out. I don't have anything in here except for emergency money. If we get stuck somewhere, there's a little bit of cash in there. So that's kind of, in terms of having everything in one for everyday carry, for me, the minimum to grab and go is this. The only thing that's not really in here is if I want to do some journaling. But I figured what I can do, since I have like this page here with notes and papers, as long as I keep this stocked up, if I'm out and I want to do a drawing, or I want to, I don't know, faff around on a piece of paper or just write out like a brainstorm or just rant about something, I can do it here. And then if I don't want, obviously I'm not going to need to keep it in my everyday carry. Once I get home I can take it out and I can sort of journal it into my TN or wherever. So I don't even need to take my beloved journal out with me. I mean, I might if I want to, if I want to go to a cafe and like have a day off and do a bit of like, I don't know, brain dumping, I can do that, but absolute bare minimum, I can do it in here, as long as I keep this stocked up. So anybody else who has like an everyday carry that you feel like has everything you could possibly need in it to take out with you, and therefore you only take one thing, it would be really great if you could comment down below anything like extra that you have, or you know, things that you've come across that you would need. The only thing I don't have in here that I can think of right now is I don't have anybody else's like names and addresses, but I feel like I'd only need those when I'm traveling. I have like basic emergency contact phone numbers, my husband and my mother-in-law for here, and my mum in England here. So I feel like I have like a few contacts, but for the most part, unless I'm traveling, I don't really need addresses. And then I have, hang on one second. I have these two, these are Hobonichi notebooks. These, they're compatible with the Weeks. Obviously you can use them whatever you want, they're just plain. I'm trying to show you a page. They're very thin and slim. I made these, so this is obviously addresses, and this is important information, like, what would it be, like bank numbers, or like obviously not like your credit card number, but you know, stuff that like if I'm traveling to England and I'm suddenly like I need to go to the bank and I'm like, oh god, I don't know, like I need bank details or whatever. This is all in here, but these two I only need them if I'm traveling. So I figured if I go traveling, all I need to do is work out a way to get these in here, and since they're teeny, I mean they won't fit in there, but all I need to do really is make a sort of a pocket insert thing, put them in there, and then that should all, that's like my absolute necessary things in one. So besides those, this is basically what I have for my one book delight everyday carry. Now I realise this is a really long video, so I'm going to try and conclude, but my final thing obviously I want to talk about was the project section here, which is me trying to work around getting things done. So where do I begin? The thing I took, I'll try, disclaimer, what I'm doing is not necessarily what's in the book. So if you want to know what he's really on about, get the book, read the book. What I'm doing in here is just what kind of my interpretation of it. And I think I can probably summarize for me 3 main points that I think he makes that I'm taking. So one was the calendar. Keep your calendar simple. Keep your calendar literally things that are not going to change. Number 2 is you need to get in the habit of doing like a daily check and a weekly check. This is something I haven't been doing. Daily check, you sit down, you look at your calendar. Is there anything I need to do that day or for tomorrow? What's coming up? Because I miss a lot of rubbish days because I don't do that. You know, like I might have rubbish going out tomorrow, and if I don't look at this, I'm not going to remember. So I need to get in the habit of checking on here what are the deadlines and things that are not moving every day. And so far I've been doing that. Next point I would say is do you know, I've said 3 points and now I can remember 2. I'll just carry on, we'll see what happens. The next point he makes is he has this 5-step system for working through everything on a to-do list. Number 1 is gather everything, write down everything, every single thing that you feel is incomplete in your life, that you feel you need to do something about, you should do something about, you want to do something about, you need to gather them all in one place physically. So if there are things in your head, you need to put them on pieces of paper, physically gather them all in one go, and then you need to process them, because if you don't do that, they're going to go round and round in your head and drive you completely mad, right? And I'm like, yep, that's that's what happens. So that's what you do for the first stage. The second stage is you need to sit down, you need to go through each of those things and decide what you're going to do about it. And then the third stage is organising them, working out when you're going to do them, and sort of making sure that they're somewhere where you can find them. Again, I'm really paraphrasing here. Step 4 was to reflect. So daily you check and weekly you check. And in your weekly check, you do the same thing again. You get all of the things that are outstanding, any paperwork that you've been piling up, any thoughts that you've had on scribbled on random notes. You do the same thing. You get that down to 0 and you put that all into where it needs to be. And you sort of review how your week was and what next week looks like. And then step 5 is kind of the bit that's really hard, is like deciding what you're going to do on any given day, any given moment. Again, I'm just paraphrasing and I might have misunderstood it, but that's how I found it to be. And I thought, well, that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did when I was setting this up. I sat down with a piece of paper and I wrote down 100 million things, and then I tried to categorise them into a way that made sense. That's basically what I did. So it's obviously something that I need to do for myself. But he advocates having, not this is something I've added, a project list. And he says that if you have something to do that involves multiple actions, you call it a project. And you make one master list and you just write down the name of the project. And every day or every week you look at it and you make sure that you are moving forward on the projects where you need to be, in terms of you have the next action for that project to be completed written down on your next actions list. Now this is the bit where I sort of don't understand, because he seems to be saying that you have one project list, which is just titles of the projects to sort of keep you focused. And then he seems to be saying that, apart from a few exceptions, you only have one next actions list with everything on. And I found that really like, oh my God, how can you have everything all on one thing? He does, to be fair, say you can categorise, obviously, you can categorise by subjects, you can categorise by people. So I've done that. But I still feel that even though I've done that and I've categorised them all and I've broken my projects down into things I want to get done, there's still, behind all of these, there's actions to complete. What I'm trying to say is these, I've written on here next actions, but these are not next actions. These are still vague to-dos. And he basically says you need to break them down even further. So, for example, hang on, let me try and find one. Like I've got on here, try cutting a stencil with my cutting machine. That's really vague. That's not an action. That's like a thing to do, right? Within that, there's probably loads more steps of, finding the vinyl to cut, looking at the software, learning how to cut, making sure I have the right blade. These are all the next actions. And I feel like in his book, he's saying, unless you break it down into the actual actions, you're still going to be stressed about it. You're still going to be like, you don't know what to do next. And the reason a lot of projects never move on is because they're not broken down into very specific actions. But I sat here and I looked at all my things and I thought, but if I break every single one of these down into actual actions, I'm going to have I don't know where to put all of that information. I can't put it all in one list. So I feel like I haven't done that properly. I don't have my next actions clear enough. They're still quite vague to-dos. That's something I need to work on, and I'll let you know if I crack it, but at the moment I have no idea how. So what I did, because even looking at this, I'm like, well, where do I start? Like, oh my God, I've got all this stuff I want to do, where do I start? I then thought, okay, he does say that in your calendar you can write down vague project schedules, like, not vague, but like if you have a project that needs to be finished by a certain date, you can track a month back and write it in your schedule. You need to be starting work on it then, obviously, to get it completed. So I looked at all my things and I thought, okay, which of these are time constrained, like which have deadlines? And I sort of wrote out a calendar like July, August, September, October, November, December, just to the end of the year, and I wrote out which things need to be done when. And then I allocated focusing on each project for each month. So a really good example is Christmas. I'm sorry, it's July and I'm saying it, but I need to start earlier to plan Christmas. Every year I say that, I need to. So I sort of wrote out in each month what I need to do for Christmas, and then at the bottom, like in August, I need to start doing card design research. In September, I need to design and print the cards in the envelopes. In October, I need to wrap gifts because, like, I have to get them posted out, blah, 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 blah. So I thought, well, if I can do that with Christmas, I can do that with other things. I can do that with like a visa, my visa I have to renew, or blah, you know, all this other stuff. So then I can sort of feel like I don't have to worry about these yet, okay? All of these projects, all of these to-dos in here that relate to these, I can sort of forget about for now, and I can just focus on what I've allocated for July. And therefore, and this is not in the book, this is definitely not in the book, I don't think, I made myself a July focus list, and I put it at the front. So in front of my projects list, I have a July focus list. These are the things I need to do in July. So these ones here and now here. And each of these obviously comes from my random next actions, not really lists. And in order to, so I basically sat and went through them and picked out the ones that relate to those projects, and I put squares so that I know that they're like the next up, sort of like the signifier in bullet journal where you put the asterisk. These are the things I need to be working on next. And they're obviously repeated here. So now when I come down and I do my daily review in the morning, I look at my calendar and I check what I need to do that day, what's coming up, and then I come here and I look at this page, and that's all I need to do. Like, I know all of this is behind all this other stuff, but this is the absolute minimum of what I've got to get done in July. And anything else that I get done is like a bonus, but this is what I've got to focus on. So this is where I'm at, basically. This is my like really random translation of the Getting Things Done method. And this is my One Book July Everyday Carry, all in here. So in theory, this is my One Book July project, seeing if that works. Excuse me, this is my sort of journaling, free journal, whatever I want it to be. And for the moment, I have other planners, but they're more like reference things. At the moment, these are the two sort of main things that I'm working with. And I'm feeling quite like, kind of, I'm not going to, use that word planner piece, but I'm feeling quite happy about that. And I'm hoping it's going to work out for me. So yeah, sorry about the ridiculously long video. I hope there might have been something in there that you could take, that might be interesting for you. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them down below. I will try and link everything I've mentioned down below. And hopefully my next video will come soon and it won't be so long next time. Alright then, thank you very much for watching if you've got this far. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Bye!